Hello and welcome to another episode from Soflex Math. Today's lesson is on place value with decimal place values. As you look at our first number here today, we have 365 and 217. So if you'll notice, the decimal point is also, when we read the number, is use the word and. So when we read the whole number 365, then we put in the word and that tells us that we're now moving into the decimal place values. So in this case, the decimal place value has a 2, a 1, and a 7. The way you would read that is you're going to read it just like you would normally read a number. So I would read that as 217, and then all I do is put in wherever the place value ends, whatever that label is, we add that to the end. So in this case, the 7 is located in the thousands place value. So we'd read that part of the number as 217 thousandths. The entire number we'd read 365 and 217 thousandths. So to review from last lesson, we're just going to fill in the whole number place values real quick, and then we'll talk about the place value names and values of the decimals. So our whole numbers are to the left of the decimal. So notice I put the arrow here, so anything to the left of the decimal or the and is going to be a whole number. So in the ones column from previous lesson, we know that that's simply a 5. In the tens, we have a 6. Remember, the value is 6D, so the 6 or the 60. And then the hundreds, the value of that is not only a 3, but 300. So that's kind of a review of our whole numbers. Now let's just label the place values by name. So we go from the right to the left this time. So right to left, when we're talking about the decimals, we're going to go from this 2 to the right. So 217. So notice how we have ones, tens, hundreds. We don't have a one. There's no such thing as a one-th category. So this time it starts with tenths. That'll make a lot more sense when we get into fractions. When we write fractions as 2/10, for example, that'll make more sense. So first we're just going to write down what numbers in each place value. So for tenths here, the number was a 2. For the hundredths, the number was a 1. And then for the thousandths, the number was a 7. So we just need to, first of all, know the names of our place values. So 2 is the tenths, 1 hundredths, and the 7 in the thousandths. Okay, when we write the value of that, okay, so 2/10, okay, is going to be the same as whole number none, but 0 and 2/10. Hundredths, the value would be 0.01. So you kind of have those placeholders the same way, just kind of going this time to the right. And then thousandths is going to be 0.00 and 7. Okay, so just taking a look at that for a minute, the pattern kind of has no zeros, 1 0, and 2 zeros, just like we kind of did with ones, tens, and hundreds, but they're just on the right side of the decimal. All right, so let's take a look at another number. So this time we have the whole number 4, which is in the ones, and then we have an and, so the and or the decimal point, 637 thousandths, because that's where that ends up. So as we are going through this, once again, we have 4, which is ones. Okay, 6 is tenths. The 3 is hundredths. And then the 7 is thousandths. One other clarification, I just want you to see how when we have decimals, they end in THS, whereas when we have the whole numbers, they just simply end in an S. Ones, tens, hundreds place value. Here it's tenths, hundredths, and thousandths. And just to kind of see a little bit of a preview of a connection as we get to fractions later on with our course. So when you look over here, 6/10 is the same as 6/10, the fraction. Okay, 3 100ths is the same as 3 100ths, and then 7 thousandths is the same as 7 over 1,000. So these are the exact same value. So when we say there's a 6 in the tenths, that's 6 out of 10. 3 in the hundreds, 3 out of 100, and then 7 out of 1,000 because of the place values. So you can kind of see where the names and then the denominators match up. Okay, and then also obviously we're dealing with decimals here, so this would be 0.6, 0.03, 0.007 if you wanted to represent what the fractions look like. So kind of the connection for later on is that when you have adding, subtracting, multiplying fractions, you could obviously translate these into a decimal, and you could do the multiplication the same way. So it's just a way to work with numbers, kind of to be flexible with them, so that if you can be an expert at decimals or an expert at fractions, you can really do both of them because they represent the exact same thing. So we're going to take a look at the place value game and how we could play that with decimals. So similarly to yesterday, when we did place value whole numbers, it's still the same game, place value 10 questions, but this time you're going to have a fraction, or I'm sorry, a number with a decimal. So in this case, our mystery number in blue is 26 and 15/100ths. So as we said, we're still going to try to guess which place value by asking good questions, but now it's just a little bit more difficult or a little bit more advanced, where you can now ask questions about what is a number in the 10th place value or the 100th place value according to this. So I'll give you two examples of questions, again a little different from yesterday, and then you can obviously play this game on your own the same way. The same exact game board template can be used from the resource book, or you can just make this on your whiteboard or a piece of scratch paper. All right, so once again, just a quick review of the directions in case you weren't with us yesterday. The place value, 10 questions. You have 10 yes or no questions to ask to try to guess the mystery number. So one player has the mystery number of 26 and 15/100ths, which no one else can see. And then the other players are going to take turns guessing by asking yes or no questions, and they're going to try to solve the 4 missing lines or the 4 missing numbers before they get to 10 questions. So a question we could ask today would be, is the number in the tenths place value, once again remember we have to remember our place value, so the 1 is in the 10th. So is the number in the tenths, let's say, greater than or equal to 4? So is a 1 greater than or equal to 4? And that would be no. So in that case we can eliminate. It is not greater than or equal to 4. So notice how we eliminated all those numbers. Okay, and then maybe another question that someone could ask, and remember we have to tally these as we go. So there was question 1, we got up to 10. Okay, my next question in the 100ths place value, so remember it's a 5, is the number in the 100ths place value even? That answer, of course, 5 is odd, so the answer would be no. So we have to eliminate all of our even numbers. Okay, and then you'd keep going, and you'll want to keep your game board separate from others because other people might not know the answers or the place values, and they might not be marking it off. What if someone, instead of saying tenths, they thought they said tens, and they're marking it off over here? Obviously, their board is going to look different than yours. So the first person who is able to guess that mystery number would be the winner. So as always, if you have any questions on our place value from today, you can feel free to leave a comment or ask me a question. Also, there's the attached handout, which has worksheet questions as well as answers on the second page. And then in the back of the math resource and game book, you'll see the game templates, which once again has the directions to this game in case you had any questions about how to play that. Once again, we'll see you in our next video as we continue talking about place value. And once again, have any questions, feel free to shout them out.